What I'll do is give a very brief overview of the Glycerine suite and then unpack our institutional integration strategy. We'll proceed with a presentation first of all, but we will keep that under 30 minutes so that there's plenty of time for discussion. This will be very brief. Systemic's been around for 30 years as an IT consulting group. Over the last 5 years or so, we've morphed into a digital humanities lab. And we develop and support a range of open source DH platforms. We built Glycerine for its research affordances, for its curatorial application in the GLAM sector, and for its educational potential. We built a prototype in 2022 and we developed in 2023 with funding from the Australian Research Data Commons, who support us to this day. Our international launch of Workbench coincides with the release of this integration framework. So the value proposition is that, and we built Workbench to provide a suite of annotation tools and end-to-end collaborative workflows. Sets of annotations can combine semantic tags with critical analysis in multiple languages. But in the last year, we've radically expanded this design brief from a workbench to a framework for institutional implementation. So where previously we just had Glycerine Workbench, the workflow interface, and Viewer, our open source IIIF viewer, we've now added to those components with Server, the back-end data model and image server, and Glycerine Editor, our app for workflow integration. We've also just about to release a WordPress plugin, but we won't cover that today. For those who've not used them before, I'll introduce Workbench and Viewer and then come back to expand on how Server and Editor components can be integrated into existing workflows and infrastructure. This will be really quite brief. I'll start with Workbench and do a very, very brief walkthrough of the foundational workflows. So first of all, collection. What you see on screen is I have the image Gandhara collection selected, and I can go into any one of the 4 image sets and start working on the annotations. Of course, I could add a new collection as well. I can then add a new image set to that collection with options to upload or link to images and to import from a manifest. I can then go in and start creating my annotations with the annotation tools. I can tag annotations with terms from scholarly vocabularies. I can then share the collection with a collaborator, and I can publish the annotated image. And all of these features are also, that are available from the Workbench interface are also available via API. I'll do a very quick walkthrough of a representative project. This is one where we partnered with galleries and museums with collections of Gandharan artifacts to demonstrate Glycerine Viewer. So our viewer supports the IIIF presentation API and manifests built with Glycerine or with other compliant tools. It's been developed with Vue 3 framework and it really has an elegant interface. Our focus is to build out a comprehensive annotation feature set around use cases for galleries, libraries, and museums. Of course, it's open source and on GitHub for community collaboration. So in Glycerine Viewer, one can click intuitively around the image for annotations of each of the components and then drill down for captions and descriptions down to elite scholarship. One can click on tags that have been applied. In this case, they're from a specialist Gandharan art vocabulary. One can show notes. In this case, they're footnotes from previous scholarship. On the right-hand side, one can use a range of filters to display in multiple languages. I can show my annotations or my collaborators' annotations or both. One can filter levels or layers of annotations and even implement a containment hierarchy. And one can toggle from a default view to a table view where the annotations are easily accessible as data. So what I'll do now is a very brief overview of our positioning in the IIIF ecosystem. So our interoperability with the ecosystem is pretty straightforward. We support local URL or IIIF images, existing manifests, TEI files, and custom import via API. The annotated images can be viewed in Glycerine or any IIIF viewer. The manifest can be elaborated upon in any IIIF compliant tool, and the data can all be accessed via API. We have a long-term sustainability strategy that was put on us by ARDC, and that involves compliance with IIIF and web annotation standards, that we can export all of the data into the manifest, that there's persistent IDs and an image archiving strategy. So what I'll do now is a high-level overview of the optional approaches to hosting and implementation. So we do support a range of implementation patterns. As you can see on the top left-hand side of that graphic, the workbench is hosted as software as a service by ARDC for Australians, and on AWS in the bottom left by Systemic. Just one variation on that is, of course, organisations can customise and theme Viewer in their own content management system. But the one I want to focus on today, the one I want to unpack, is that in the bottom right-hand quadrant. And that is where the Glycerine server editor pattern that we'll unpack today. So as I prefaced, last year we built out the modules to support integration with institutional infrastructure. Glycerine server is the back-end module. Glycerine editor is our annotation widget. So thinking about Glycerine server, it provides the data model and the APIs for integration with the institution's digital asset management and/or collections management system. It provides access to all of Glycerine's IIIF support, collection and collaboration features. The image server is a IIIF image server built on Cantaloupe, which provides a controlled environment for resource access and management. So Glycerine Editor provides all of the annotation editing features of Workbench, but within a very minimalist viewer-like user experience. So curators can create and edit annotations from within their existing collections management workflows. GLAM institutions and cultural aggregators can integrate Editor into their content management system and support external contributors to add annotation layers from their site. So a high-level perspective of this implementation pattern is that server provides the back-end model and APIs for integration with the digital asset management infrastructure. Editor widget can be embedded into the existing collections management workflows, or indeed in the organisation's content management system for external contributors. And Viewer can be themed and embedded in a content management system. Though, of course, you can use any IIIF viewer to view the manifest. So what I'll do is just show you Editor. You can register on the site and try this yourself at any point. Just try. So if I go into to try Editor on our site, I can select a manifest to open. So Editor has been modularized and works exactly the same way, whether it's embedded in Workbench or here standalone. I can, across the top are all the annotation tools for segmenting and theming the annotations. I can go in and outline a component, just like that. And I can give it, just use test. I can give it a description. I can add a link or a number of links. I can apply tags to it. I can go and select from a range of different scholarly vocabularies, pick one and pick terms from those vocabularies. I can add any sort of footnotes, if you like, annotations, notes on this annotation, attribution, date, etc., and then create that annotation. So you can all try that. There's the UX out at your leisure. We've had to put a lot of work into making it really simple and user-friendly. But at this point, I could export the manifest. And if you have a look at the export, copy it or download, you'll see all the annotations are embedded in the manifest. And at the moment, for this demo, out of the box, Glycerine editor saves those annotations back to Glycerine server, which is what Young will demonstrate shortly. But in this demo, the annotations are just being saved into the browser cache. So just to summarize all of the key features, Glycerine editor can be implemented as a JavaScript widget. It has the full annotation feature set of Workbench. Your annotations are stored in the browser cache, but can be exported to a manifest. The editor saves annotations out of the box to Glycerine server, or indeed any web annotation protocol compliant data store. So what I'll do now is hand over to our tech lead, Young Lee, and Young's going to unpack some of the approaches to saving annotations data from Glycerine editor to the Glycerine server or to your own data store. And to go through, and he'll also go through some of the architectures for mainstream implementation use cases. So I'll hand over to Young now.
All right, thanks again. So what I will do is step through a number of conceptual patterns and then unpack how they are actually implemented. I will start with the greenfield case where there is no existing IIIF infrastructure, and move through patterns where we leverage existing infrastructure. Next slide, please. So the first pattern is ideal for systems without any IIIF infrastructure. In this example, we assume the organization is using a system captioned as a data management system to manage all the resources. The data management system maps its internal resources to Glycerine resources, such as collections and the image sets. It then integrates the Glycerine server API into its own workflows, such as during the life cycle of a resource to create, update, or delete matching resources in Glycerine server. The data management system embeds Glycerine editor in its editing UI. Glycerine editor works out of the box with the Glycerine server to create annotations. Glycerine server generates the IIIF manifest, including all annotations created from Glycerine editor. The data management system embeds Glycerine viewer in its public interface for presentation. A great example of this pattern is the OMA project that Isabel will demonstrate shortly. But before that, I will briefly go through the integration architecture of the project. Next slide, please. The OMA website is built in WordPress. We developed a custom plugin in WordPress to integrate Glycerine components into the OMA website. On each entity page in OMA, such as text on newspaper page, the plugin provides the UI for editors to create image sets and annotation sets via the Glycerine server API. The entity page embeds the Glycerine editor, allowing editors to create public annotations and other users to create private annotations. The entity page also embeds Glycerine viewer to present images and annotations to public users. The plugin also provides a search page allowing users to search annotations via the Glycerine search API. Next slide, please. The next use case assumes the organization already has existing IIIF infrastructure. In the flowchart, this is again referred to as the data management system. In this case, the existing digital asset or a collection management system has its own IIIF implementation that can generate manifests from its data models. It uses Glycerine server as the annotation store. Glycerine editor is installed and configured in this data management system. Glycerine editor fetches the original IIIF manifest from the data management system and reads and writes annotations to and from Glycerine server using the web annotation API. When serving IIIF manifest to Glycerine viewer on website, the data management system aggregates annotations from Glycerine server into a complete manifest. I'm going to do a quick demo to show how Glycerine editor can annotate a manifest generated by an existing external IIIF infrastructure. So let me share my screen. So what we are looking at is a simple HTML page displaying a manifest from Yale Peabody Museum loaded in Glycerine editor. Glycerine editor loads the manifest directly from its original location. If I open the original manifest, it has a number of canvases, but you can see there's no annotation in the original manifest. Glycerine editor here is configured to connect to Glycerine server for annotation storage. Let me quickly create an annotation. The annotation has now been created in Glycerine server. If I look at the annotation collection manifest generated by Glycerine server, so the annotation collection in this case contains only one single annotation page. If I open that annotation page, so you can see the annotation I just created. So you can see the annotation target is the original canvas from the original IIIF manifest. You can tell that by the canvas ID here. So in a real scenario, the server that generates the IIIF manifest would aggregate the annotation collection manifest from Glycerine server into its final presentation manifest. Of course, I don't have the access to the Yale server here, so I've created a custom script to simulate this aggregation behavior. So what we are looking at now is the IIIF manifest after aggregation. If I navigate to the first canvas, you can see the manifest now contains annotations directly from Glycerine server. So the annotation ID is the persistent ID assigned by Glycerine server here. I can then just load the aggregated manifest into Glycerine viewer for presentation. So here in Glycerine viewer, you can just see the annotation I just created. I'll just stop sharing. So Ian, can you share the slides? Okay. So at the far end of the spectrum is a scenario where the organization prefers to use both its own annotation data store and its own IIIF infrastructure. In this case, Glycerine editor is installed in the data management system and reads or writes to the existing data store using the web annotation protocol, assuming the existing store supports this protocol. Glycerine viewer can again be used for presentation. We are delighted to work with anyone who wants to implement this pattern But of course, integration can also be done by in-house developers. You only need Glycerine editor from us. The rest is just API implementation. Next, I will hand it over to our implementation lead, Isabel Andrews, who will work through a real-world implementation.
All righty, I'll just share my screen. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Isabel. Now, I'll just be showing a demo of our OMA integration with Glycerine editor and viewer. So this integration is an example of the without IIIF infrastructure that the pattern that Young went through. So this website and this project, it's called the Opening the Multilingual Archive of Australia, or OMA for short. It's a project that's based at the University of Sydney. And essentially, the website is an archival aggregator, providing thematic access to primary sources relevant to Australia's multicultural history. So it's a quite high-profile cultural and historical research project that we've been very lucky to be able to integrate Glycerine editor and viewer into. So the way we've integrated both of these things is so that OMA users can add and then annotate images to records from within the site. So they can do that, and then in general, they can also create their own private annotations once those images have been added to each individual record. The annotated images can then be published as research outputs and exported as IIIF manifests. So the idea is to provide simple workflows within WordPress using the Glycerine API to provide a seamless experience that presumes no prior IIIF knowledge on the part of the user. So ideally, it's really straightforward. I'll just give you a quick demo of those workflows. So for starters, you do need to log in to the OMA website. Now, the first workflow that I'll take you through is a workflow specifically for our curator users. And the curator is an administrative role, essentially, on the website, which is given by the site owners to specific people that they want to grant full curatorial access to the website. So let's say as a curator user, I want to come to a record on the website and attach an image to an individual record, which can then be annotated. So I'll open this record here. You can see we have all the metadata for this record, but there's no existing image that's been attached to the record yet. It's just the straight metadata. So what I'll do is create a Glycerine image set. If I have a IIIF manifest URL for the image, I can use that, or a standard image URL. In this case, I have the image on my machine, so I will just attach that and click Create Image Set. Takes a minute. So now we see the Glycerine viewer embedded directly within this record page. So because I'm a curator user, I've made this image set the official image set for the record. Any other user who now comes to this page will see this image as the official image. Then the second step that I can do as a curator is create public annotations, which will switch us to Glycerine editor. And I can use any of the tools at the top of the page to annotate the image. For example, this sign. Maybe I want to transcribe the sign, give a title and description. Obviously, you can add all the extra details that are standard within Glycerine, so links, tags, notes, and so on. Click Create, and that annotation is automatically saved by Glycerine editor to the image set. So if I exit edit mode now and go back to the viewer, I should see that annotation saved as the official annotation set for the image. So again, any other general user who comes to this page will see this annotation as the official annotation set that's visible to everyone. I can go back and edit if I want to add more. You can go back and forth, obviously, as much as you want. And you can remove the whole Glycerine image set from the record if you want to start again. Now, the second workflow is for any general OMAR user. So not just the curators, but anyone. Usually our OMAR users are students or members of the public who are interested, obviously, in multilingual history within Australia. So for these users, I can go to My Annotations, the tab up the top, and we should see Glycerine Editor within this page. And as a user, I can come here. Maybe this time I annotate this sign. Just give it a title, click Create. Again, this annotation is automatically saved. But for me, as a general non-curator user, these annotations in My Annotations are private to me. So no other user can see them. And if I go back to the Details tab, I still see the official annotation set created by the curator, but my annotations are like notes that are privately saved to my account, and they are just automatically saved. I can export those annotations if I do want to share them with someone. So we can export the manifest, copy it, download it, take it into any other IIIF compatible annotation viewer. And do whatever you like with it. It's all their standard IIIF structure. All right, that's really it. It's quite simple, hopefully. I'll hand back to Ian now to outline sustainability and talk about our subscriptions and sum everything up for you.
Great, thanks. Okay. So, sustainability and subscriptions. Okay, so institutional sustainability. As far as Workbench is concerned, we provide a hosted subscription service. Of course, Viewer and the WordPress plugin are open source and freely available. We're running Glycerine Server and Glycerine Editor as open source projects, sustained through an annual subscription. And that enables us, of course, to continue to build out the features and provide developer support and updates. If you go to the Workbench pricing menu on our website, we have a range of subscription rates ranging from a free trial, individual, project level, up to program level with as many as 10 collaborators. And I think you'll find the pricing is quite modest. It's really so we can cover support. For institutional integration, we provide annual subscription options for Workbench, for Server and Editor, dependent on the hosting pattern that's been adopted. Just click the Contact Us button on that page and we'll send you out a subscription matrix with all the different permutations. So what we've been doing is we've begun trial integration of Server and Editor with some existing partners in our region, as you saw with OMAR, and we'll extend that pilot trial in September to the international market. We've established private GitHub repos and we'll conduct workshops for those interested in piloting Server and Editor in their organisation. So we're planning 1-hour sessions with our implementation team. Again, there'll be separate times for North America and Europe. And we'll communicate about those out through the normal IIIF channels about the process for joining the trial and providing access to the repos and our implementation guides. Of course, I'm sure you've already found it, but if you haven't, it's at glycerine.io. And on the homepage there, you can find all the stuff that we've demoed today and the ability to register for the platform. You can try out Viewer and Editor, and there are links to all the user and developer documentation. So, you know, we designed the framework around our implementation experience with existing partners. And what we tried to do is expose where we landed in terms of integration patterns. But of course, these patterns that we've articulated are to some extent abstractions, and your infrastructure reality may be rather more complex and intricate. So what I'd like to do now is just finish off the presentation part and open up for questions.